What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I'm joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime for this MLB draft coverage. I guess draft recap of days 1 and 2. Nate Green. Nate, how you doing?
Doing well, Jared. Good, fun times. Got to watch a little bit of the draft on Sunday, and then today, and then got to see the home run derby. Vlad winning it. Congrats to Vlad Guerrero Jr. That's fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, but you stole my thunder. I'm not a huge fan. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of the All-Star game itself. I like the home run derby. All-Star game, I think, is cool and everything, but I think they could be so much better. I like them all being mic'd up and you can talk to them and everything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be good to see Shohei and Carlos Estevez in the All-Star game doing their thing. Home run derby, that was a lot of fun as well. J-Rod just absolutely going off. I thought Adley was going to win it after he did what he did in the first round, but not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk a little bit of Angels draft coverage. We'll talk picks 1 through 10 today. We'll get on and we'll talk picks 11 through 20 in the coming days, just to go over everything. And of course, if Taylor Blake Ward's listening, we're going to get him on at some point to really go over the draft coverage, draft recap, get you guys some good breakdowns on all of that. But let's go ahead and get our initial thoughts. The Angels had the 11th overall pick in the first round. They take a first baseman, possibly a corner outfielder, possibly a third baseman. He gets picked as a first baseman, though. Nolan, Schanuel. How are you feeling about this pick, Nate? Initial thoughts.
Well, that's who I had the Angels taking when we talked on, what was that, Sunday? I had the Angels taking him. Am I excited with who's on the board? No. My favorite player in the draft was Jacob Gonzalez, but there's some interesting things with Schanuel. Big power, cut his strikeouts down. He said he had eye surgery to help him and cut the strikeouts down, increased the walks this year. Was a powerful bat in the middle of the line for Florida Atlantic all year. And the one thing that I like to look at, especially when you're looking at guys from small, non-Power 5 schools, should I say, how did they do against Power 5 schools, especially like big-time Power 5 schools, which FAU plays Miami, they play Florida, they play teams like that. And he showed up well in those games. He hit some bombs against Miami. I think he had one homer against Florida. He had a couple homers against Miami. And it looked like they had trouble getting him out. So I love the bat speed. I love some things about him. Jacob Gonzalez has been my favorite player in the draft for a long time. So to watch him get passed on was tough, but no, there's some interest here with him. Should be a quick mover, starting Double-A probably.
Yeah, and I know a lot of
maybe high A for a little bit and then go to Double-A, but yeah.
I think we see him at Rocket City I think we see him at Rocket City right off the bat, to be honest there with you.
You think it's the Neto treatment where it's like, hey, go to high A for like 24 hours and then move him to Double-A and say, okay, let's see how you do? Neto was there for what, 48 hours, 72
he was
hours?
Neto was in Tri-City for like 3 days or something like that.
And, like 72 hours.
Yeah, then he went up to Rocket City, and then the rest is history. But I think they might have learned their lesson. However, we've talked about this before. Tri-City tends to be a place where you go to fail, and Schanuel, he didn't really fail this year. He was arguably statistically the best hitter in college baseball. Led the NCAA Division I, I believe, in batting average and in on base percentage. He was second in batting average, first in on base percentage. I believe he was top 10 in slugging, and I believe he was also he was at the top in OPS as well. So yeah, he had a fantastic year, college performer. It's going to be a quick mover. I know I compared him to Matt Thaiss. The swing reminds me a little bit of Matt Thaiss. It really does. I know I got a lot of heat on that one. But the swing reminds me a lot of Thaiss. I think ends up being a better hitter than Thaiss, but this is very similar to what Matt Thaiss was coming out of Virginia as well. And you look at this, it's more than likely an underslot pick. I think you hope you get him at around 3.5, maybe 3.75. You save a little over $1 million there. I think he goes for a little bit more. I think he gets that $4 million range in that ballpark. However, quick mover, not horribly upset with the pick. He's decent defender. He's got a good eye at the plate. The bat speed is there for him to be a really freaking good hitter. I think we all just need to kind of get a little better look at him and see what he can actually do against legit pitching as well. So I don't know if you got anything else on Nolan Schanuel, but we can just kind of continue to roll on if you don't.
We've seen him against legit pitching this year. He did face Miami, he did face Florida. Florida Gulf Coast was ranked 20th at the time when they played. So like he has seen good pitching, but the one thing where you could point to some more good arms, he did play in the Cape Cod last summer, struggled a little bit. I think he had the surgery after the Cape Cod League, and that really helped him. But yeah, he did strike out a lot more in the Cape Cod League. Struggled a little bit there, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully, he's a quick mover like we're expecting, and can play a position of need right now, first base. I don't think he's an outfielder or a third baseman like they say he is. I think he's more of a big body. Just let him hit home runs and get that way. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless, feels like a draft of need here, kind of like Perry and staff did with the drafting all pitchers thing. However, you can't be upset when you got arguably the best statistical college player in NCAA this year. Arguably, I say arguably, he led in OPS, he led in on base percentage, he led in a lot of stats that really matter. I know he played at a small school and everything like that, but we'll see how it is. There were definitely guys higher on our draft board, like you mentioned, Jake Gonzalez. Definitely a couple other guys there, and I think the Angels had a tough pick there between whether they wanted to spend that money, go full slot value, because Gonzalez, you're going to give him pretty close to that full 5 million, 5.2.
I don't know if he gets 5.2. I think he probably would have gotten 4.5.
Gonzalez?
Yeah.
That makes sense. But I mean, you're saving an extra 500,000, and it comes down to, I mean, everybody's going to emphasize the number one overall pick. Everybody always emphasizes that first round pick that teams have, especially, and we mentioned this a lot, when the Angels don't have a second round pick, and don't have that money at that second round pick. So the first round pick always just feels so much more crucial than any other picks. However, the Angels have really capitalized a lot in 3 through 20 in the past the past few years. They took Joyce. We're going to talk about Rios that they took here out of Stanford. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I didn't mind the rest of this draft. We're going to go over it, obviously here, and we'll talk about picks 11 through 20 when that happens as well. But yeah, I'm intrigued to know what they do. I'm not upset about this first day, but you definitely felt like they could have gone some different directions. But then again, a team with not a lot of money can only go, so far in the draft. So, regardless of that, any other thoughts here on the Angels' first round pick?
Oh, we'll see where he ends up.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see whether it's high A for a minute, or if it's just straight to double A. That's going to be, and the interesting thing, does Sonny DeTrog get moved? And I know he's a fan favorite, has not produced. Does he get moved to low A or high A? Excuse me. Does he? I don't know. Just interesting things, especially with Cabbage and Walsh in AAA. So you just have a lot of moving parts with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is very similar to what the Angels, could have done with the catcher. The Angels are pretty stacked at the catching position. I guess a little bit different, but pretty stacked at the catching division position. And you got some guys you want to try out. And at first base, you got a Cabbage. You got to figure out what you're doing with Walsh. You got quite a few guys here. And then we also talked about it. I think that Schanuel is going to get every opportunity to play the outfield, maybe play a little bit of third base. So I think Deshara can stay there, DH and play a little first base. Kevin Maetan's not there anymore. I think we see some movement here. I'm excited to see what happens in Salt Lake and see if the Angels make some moves to bring a couple of these the prospects up. But let's get on here to the Angels' third round pick. I've heard very, very good things. Got a really good report from out of some people from Alberto Rios out of Stanford, third baseman, righty, 6', 203. Slot value here is $901,000. I think he's going to sign pretty dang close to that. You might get a little under slot, but I think this is a pretty safe bet that this is going to be at slot or maybe slightly under. I'm extremely excited about Alberto Rios. Big bat. The bat's going to really play. I think he's going to be a pretty solid third baseman. And another guy that I think you send maybe straight to Double A. I think we see him in Tri-City. Regardless, the bat is really going to play. It's a very good bat. You can slot him in that Kyron Paris range if you want to talk about Angels prospects right off the bat, as long as they get him to sign. And yeah, I'll let you kind of take it away there, Nate. You got anything on him?
Yeah, Pac-12 Player of the Year this year. There's some really good players in the Pac-12, one of which was drafted by the Angels last year and ended up going in the third round this year from Atlanta.
Sabin Caballos.
Yeah, and you had the Arizona kid who was a first rounder. He didn't win Pac-12 Player of the Year. You had Tommy Troy, who's on this team as well, and Rios ends up winning Pac-12 Player of the Year with his numbers. His numbers were really good, but the one thing that worries me about Rios is the lack of a track record with him. Like, he really hasn't played at Stanford. You look at the numbers, and he had one AB his redshirt, I guess his freshman year. He had 7 ABs last year, and all of a sudden this year he had 293 and went off. But that's the only thing that's going to be the issue is, like, is it a 1-year wonder thing, or like, was it just an opportunity thing? Because Stanford is always one of the top, 10 or 15 teams in the country, typically starts the year in the top 5 if things go right for Stanford. So is it just an opportunity thing where they just didn't have any place for him to play, and now all of a sudden he just hit his way into the starting lineup? Or is this something that there wasn't really too many reports out on him and he was able to take advantage of some good pitches early? And so that's the only knock on him, but really good player, really good numbers. Stanford's not a hitter friendly park either. That place usually is where baseballs go to die, especially when they play at night, and they play a lot of night games there. So yeah, that's good. He's a good player. Just where's he going to play? That's the issue. And it's not that we have a third baseman. It has nothing to do with the Anthony Rendon thing. Is he going to be a good enough defender to stick at third?
Yeah. I think you look at what you want out of the bat at third base, and definitely I think he sticks there. It just, defensively if he can, if not, you corner outfield, maybe first base again. And I think the trend that we're going to see a lot here is that corner position that Nate and I don't necessarily like, but we'll kind of see how we feel about it rolling forward here. So fourth round pick, the Angels took Joe Redfield. That is the most Texas name. Not really. That's a very like MLB The Show name, like, random name there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought there. Outfielder out of Sam Houston State. Really like him. Reminds me a little bit of Tucker Flint from last year. I think the swing and miss isn't going to be the biggest issue like it is with Tucker Flint. Toolsy outfielder, might be able to stick in center field. Was actually was going to transfer to Georgia. Fourth round pick here. I think this might be a tougher sign than a lot of people think. I think he ends up signing as a fourth rounder, and was also one of the best statistical hitters in NCAA Division I baseball as well. If you go look at the stats there, was the only hitter in NCAA Division I to have 100 hits, 15 doubles, 15 home runs, and 15 stolen bases. So there's a lot there. There's a lot to like. Swing is different for sure. Like I said, very Tucker Flint like. For those of you who know who Tucker Flint is, very Jared Walsh like. I guess you can say that as well. And it's again another interesting bat. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's not ranked in the top 250 by MLB Pipeline. This is why a lot of you guys are not scouts as well, because you guys don't know about these people. But yeah, it's a very interesting name, and we'll kind of see where he goes. Like, another guy who's a quick mover, a college performer. I'm excited for this guy. I really am. Just like I was pretty excited. I was a little optimistic on Tucker Flynn. I'm a little more excited here for Joe Redfield. So, Nate, you got anything here?
Yeah, the one thing I like about Redfield coming from, um, I think I think Deggs recruited him, which Deggs did a really good job, uh, before moving on to Lafayette, which is where he got his second chance. But, uh, yeah, that's the one thing is I know Deggs does a really good job at recruiting and developing. I know he left before Redfield really got anything. I think he recruited him and then left that year. So that is one interesting thing. I like the coaching staffs. That's a big thing to me. Is like if good coaches like you, then there's good track record behind it. Obviously,
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the corner spot is not my favorite. I wish he was more of a center fielder. Moving to a corner spot.
I think he's got a chance to be a center fielder. We'll see, but I think
Yeah,
I definitely think he's got a chance. He's got a good feel for tracking down balls. He's quick. He's got a decent arm. I think that it's all there to stick in center field. Now, what kind of impact he makes, that's going to be the next question. We'll see if the bat plays. He could be I don't want to call him Bryce Teodosio because Bryce Teodosio is the best defensive center fielder in baseball or in the minors, but somebody maybe like that, middle of the road guy. Probably see him start in Tri-City. Maybe very Joe Stewart like friend of the show here.
possible,
Um,
possible.
type of guy
That
like
was
that.
honestly who I thought of
Yeah.
when I saw that draft pick. Is like that could be Joe Stewart type of guy this year. So
Yeah.
we'll
Like I
see.
said, another guy, like it's very interesting names. The more you dive into it, you look at the draft right off the bat for the Angels, it's like, it's not great. You go with a lot of corner guys, not a lot of guys who are real, you think are impact bats or impact pitchers, but you dive into a little bit more and it just becomes a little bit more interesting, the more and more you look at it. And I know when we get Taylor on, he'll try to talk us into a couple players as well. But let's move on to the fifth round here. The Angels take Chris Clark out of Harvard, right-handed pitcher. Very interesting guy for me here. I think it's an underslot pick. Low 90s fastball's been up to 96, got some sink on it. Nasty, nasty, nasty slider. I've seen some pretty good videos of that. Does have another pitch. The Angels think he's a starter. I don't necessarily think that, but you let him start as long as you can. It's an interesting arm. It really, really is. We're going to talk a lot about these arms. There are going to be a lot of these two pitch arms that the Angels draft because there are a lot of those guys in this draft. So I'm really going to like this a lot of these pitchers that they take here. I'm more of a big velo guy. I think that if you put him in the pen and he's more 94, 96, can maybe bump it up maybe to 97. I think that's with that nasty slider, you have something that might play in the bullpen. I don't know if he sticks as a starter. Nonetheless, a very interesting arm here, and again, a guy that I think the Angels do end up signing. So, hey, I don't know if you got anything.
Well, the one thing about him is I would guess, and I don't have the numbers to back this up, but I would guess that he's a big stuff plus guy just based on the numbers and things like that with him. I love how you start laughing because
I think
it's probably true.
looking at the slider, I guess
Yep.
it's a stuff
Yep.
plus guy. But
Exactly.
he had a lot of
So
strikeouts. I think he was top 50 in the NCAA in strikeouts. So
at least K per nine, he was top 50.
yeah.
I don't know about strikeout wise, because some guys just threw more innings than him. He only threw 65 and 2/3, and you've got guys throwing 80, 90 innings, and
Yeah.
he struck out 93. So you could have a guy who doesn't really strike guys out and throw 80, 90 innings and have 95 punches. So
Regardless of those numbers, you got to like those numbers.
yeah,
Yeah.
the one thing is the walks. 36 in 65 innings, basically walking a guy every other inning. That speaks to the stuff plus metric as well. He's got to be able to throw strikes. If he can't throw strikes, it really doesn't matter what he is, if he's a starter or a reliever. But he definitely possibly could be a guy as long as he can throw strikes. Interesting. I wonder who's going to be. I wonder Princeton or Harvard if we see anything like that, because friend of the show was Angel still hurt.
No, he got released, man.
Okay,
Sorry.
I knew he got released, but I knew he's hurt as well, so couldn't remember.
Yeah. So yeah, no, very, very interesting. Again, another arm I'm excited to see. Remind me a little bit of a Max Gig. Doesn't have the velo as Max Gig, but Very, very similar, and I really like Max Gig, as long as he stays healthy there. So let's go on the 6th round pick here. Fun guy. Anytime you take a Wake Forest pitcher at this time, it's like taking a Tennessee. It's like taking a Vandy guy. It's like taking one of those big school guys. Because he's coming out of a big school. Camden Minacci. I believe I said that. Did I not say it right? What did they say it
I don't
was?
think so.
I don't think I said it right either. But
Minacci.
Minacci? Is that what it was? Minacci?
Minacci.
Let's go with that.
I don't know. We could both be wrong, but I thought that's what it was.
Camden Minacci, yes. Like I said, anytime you take a Wake Forest guy, super excited about that. Big stuff, big stuff. 94, 96 can kick it up to 98, 99 when he's needed. Strictly a reliever here. The slot value here is 330,000. I think he's going to be there or a little bit over slot here on this. Nonetheless, very, very good pitcher. He's going to slide into a lot of top prospect lists for the Angels. I know it's reliever upside, so I'm not a huge fan of taking relievers. I'd like the starter upside. However, when you can get an arm like this, that's probably going to be a back of the bullpen guy and add him in, probably straight to Rocket City. It's a really, really good thing, I think, at the end of the day for the Angels there. So another quick mover here, plus slider, plus fastball, and again, quick mover. That's the name of the game here, and he pitched well for Wake Forest. I know he got a lot of big airtime there, and he's a big dude as well. So what do you got?
Yeah. Another thing about Wake Forest put an absurd amount of money into pitching lab this last year and a half, 2 years. And so the fact that he's in there, knows how to use everything, big part of who he is, like he's going to fit this, the newer system of pitching and everything. So yeah, he'll be a quick mover. No, I don't even want to put that comp on him.
No, stuff wise reminds me of Luke Murphy. He's going to be a little better. He's going to be around the plate a little bit more than Luke Murphy, but when you're getting a closer from a big school like that, you're going to put him in the Ben Joyce range. You can't tell me he's not Ben Joyce.
Say was Ben Joyce, but like it's going to be like that where people are going to watch him in Double A. It's going to be like, oh, this is impressive, and then all of a sudden he's going to end up, and it's going to be spring training. People are going to see him throw once or twice and be like, oh, this guy could be in the back end, like he could be in the bullpen right now. It's just going to depend on. Huh?
It's a more refined Ben Joyce. The velo's not there.
But the velo's not as much. But yes, very similar.
Yeah. So if you are fans of prospects and want to know where to rank people, if you want to put them near the Ben Joyce range, that is perfectly fine. So let's move on to the Angels' 7th round pick here. They picked the third baseman. I believe he was the first baseman, though, out of TCU, Cole Fontanelli. The slot value here is $258,000. I think they're going to go a little under slot here. Nonetheless, big body, can probably teach a little bit of, and I can't teach, but probably has a little bit of power in the bat. Really, really like the swing. I'm excited to see what he does. Again, played a lot of first base because Braden Taylor was there at third base for TCU. Loved Braden Taylor, by the way. Wouldn't mind picking him if they were the Angels, but I like the swing. I think there's something there. It's going to be a very Joe Stewart pick. Whereas that sounds. Joe Stewart, obviously an outfielder. Fontanelli's a first base, third base type of guy. Again, we talk about the corners. We don't like that. We like to build up the middle. I still think there's something there. Could be a pretty decent bat. Could be, at the very least, a major leaguer. And I know you don't like that saying.
I do not. Part of the reason Jared and I don't love the corner guys is because typically most corner guys played up the middle and moved to corner. Most of those guys are like, hey, I played shortstop and moved to third, that type of thing. And typically this isn't always the case, but corner guys aren't as athletic. And you just like to have athletic guys. So interesting pick here. The thing that threw me off is that he got slated as a third baseman, knowing he played first base for TCU mostly, like we mentioned with Taylor. Decent year, 352, 14 homers, 58 RBIs. A little bit of speed, too, with 20 bags. It's interesting. We'll see. Joe Stewart is a pretty good comp with the way that you look at. I know it sucks to say that. Not sucks, but like it's repetitive, I guess.
Well, Joe Stewart's gonna slot probably in my top 40 prospect list. So there's that.
Yeah. So I guess if he can play third base, that just gives him more versatility. That's what you hope for, is more versatility. But
Yeah.
a lot of first base for him in DH this year.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what Fontanelli brings to the table. So 3 more picks here. We'll go around 8. Probably a guy we're going to talk about a little bit more here. Barrett Kent, the only high schooler that the Angels have taken in this draft. I have a feeling they may take 1 more, maybe 2 more a little bit later on. Third high schooler that Perry and staff have picked in his time here. Really excited about this pick here. Pitchability guy. The velo doesn't stick around. I know that's something you're going to mention. I'll let you talk about it. But does have a couple of pretty good out pitches. He has the slider that's not too bad. He has the curveball that's not too bad. He's got a changeup in the works. There is some work to be done here. However, with how the Angels have, and I air quote, developed, because I know you don't like how the Angels have developed some of
No.
their pitching. With the way the Angels have developed some of their pitching in the low minors, I'm not as worried about developing a kid like this. There's some rumors that he is going to sign whatever the dollar figure is. I'm going to guess it's in between $750 and $1 million. Who was committed to Arkansas. So we'll kind of see where it goes. Big kid, kind of reminds me of Jack Kahanowitz a little bit there, with what he brings to the table. So, Nate, you got anything here on this guy?
Yeah, like you mentioned already, the velo doesn't typically stick. He has run it up to 96, of course, but it's typically low 9s, 91, 94. I forget who it was. I saw something today, and I'm blanking on if it was Callis or Mail, and I know that changes your mind completely on the way you think about this pick. But one of those two gentlemen said that he is one of his favorite prospects in this draft. He thought he could have gone day like late first, early second, maybe like early third was like the furthest he would drop, and then some things happened, and he ends up here. So I don't like the way the Angels have developed pitching. I know I'm going to get hammered for that, but how many guys have we been told are going to be starters, and we look and they are not starters? So that's my one worry. You could be drafting another reliever, which I think you can find relievers anywhere. They're so volatile, but yeah, that's the one thing I'm worried about, is can they develop that extra pitch? Because what you're seeing a lot from the Angels, and he's got good stuff, like 3-pitch mix, fast curve, slider. He's got the changeup. That's the pitch I really want to see him develop, because the Angels have really gone sweeper heavy. I don't know if that's what the reasoning behind that is, but they've gone really sweeper heavy, and they need to teach guys how to throw the changeup, because it is a valuable pitch, especially for righties, with a lot more lefties going to be in lineups because of the shift being gone. You're going to have more lefties who are just going to have better numbers, especially against right-handed pitchers. So I think they really need to develop changeups, and that is something they have not really done well. So that is my one issue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. I think you look at the other schoolers they picked. The Angels are working on developing a kid like Mason Albright. They've done a pretty good job. I know I've seen some good starts out of him. Caden Dana, yes. I think that they've hit on him. I really like him. I think that he's going to slide very nicely into pretty dang close to the top 5 in a lot of top prospect lists in the Angels org. So with that being said, we'll move on to the 9th and probably 10th pick here. Nate, I'm gonna be honest here, I don't have a lot on Chase Gokel, who's the Angels' 9th round pick out of Quincy University. This is probably gonna be a little bit of an underslot pick here to save some money. I've heard low 9s or low 90s fastball. He jumped around schools a little bit. I know that worries us just a little bit on the character issue. However, he got drafted. It'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table. Somebody had to have liked him.
Yeah,
So,
true. Division 2 guy. We'll see what happens with him. Bounce around 3 different schools in 3 years, which is a little bit of a red flag for me. But here he is.
So let's move on to our 10th round pick here before we let everybody go. Chris Barraza out of U of A, kind of an undersized righty. However, we talk about Stuff Plus. This is the first time I'm going to bring it up. Slider ranked amongst the top in NCAA Division 1 in Stuff Plus. Very, very good pitcher on that side of stuff. And Perry and staff like that stuff plus. However, a little undersized. He's probably going to slot in as a reliever type of guy. However, one of those guys where could end up like an Austin Warren, could end up, somebody along the lines of that. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. He's a low nines guy, commands it well. That's all I really got on him. What do you got?
Yeah, transferred from New Mexico State. That does not bother me. Transferring from
the Sammy Minatera Jr. thing there.
Yeah, transferring from a smaller Division I to a Power 5, that doesn't bother me. Didn't throw too much for Arizona. They wish they would have used him a little bit more. Struggled this year with the runs, and I know people are gonna look at that and be like, "Uh-oh," but struck a lot of guys out. Not too bad on the walks, not great on the walks, but undersized, probably a reliever.
They've taken somebody at U of A before, Chase Silseth, so it's
Silseth's a little bit bigger.
They've had success out of the college. That they like to go. A lot of schools like to go back to those places. I mentioned Sammy Minatera Jr. I think the Angels' 13th rounder last year is in Tri-City now. Was at New Mexico State. So you like going back to those same schools, and you got to actually, you kind of got to tip the cap to the scout out there, whoever the area scout is, who's gotten a couple of these guys. Silseth Natera looks good down in Tri-City, and now you get Chris Barraza here. With the 10th pick as a senior sign, big stuff plus guy. So Nate, real quick, grade this first day of the draft, first 2 days of the draft, should I say?
Yeah, I'm gonna go C, just straight C, and I know that's like way against all the rules that you have. But I there wasn't really a pick where I was like, oh my gosh, we got this guy. Like there was a lot of like, oh, interesting. We'll see what we get here. A lot of question marks, a lot of projects. And when you're a team that needs to be good and needs to have guys ready rather quickly, especially if you're going to lose Ohtani, they're gonna need guys to fill some spots. And I'm not saying you need to expect these guys in the majors right now, but you got to have these guys go through the system quickly, and with a lot of question marks in here, I got to go C just because of that.
I think I'm going to shock you here. I'm going to give it a B plus, just because I've kind of talked myself into liking Nolan Schanuel a little bit more, as well as Rios there in the third round. I think you got two impact bats there, and then the way the Angels have developed pitching, and I air quote developed pitching, I like the high schooler that they took. We'll see what happens here in this day 3. Last year, the Angels won day 3. I thought the Angels had the best day 3 draft out there. I'm excited to see if they can do it again. But right now, I think I'm going to give the Angels a solid B minus, which I don't know if that's going to surprise a lot of people, but I'm kind of talking myself into what they've done.
B plus or B minus?
Did I say B plus? I meant B minus. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, B minus. I apologize there, guys.
Okay.
So
I was gonna say B plus like really shocked me. B minus, it's like not as shocking because you could easily be in the C plus range. But
yeah, B minus. I think it can. I think this can turn into a B, solid B or B plus if they do what they did with day 3 last year. You get a high schooler, and then you start finding guys that are still around in that top 250 range on pipeline. I know that's not a great scale to rank people on, but you find some of those guys, you can pull off some overslot stuff there, like they did with Southern and Osman last year, and I think again it turns into a really good day 3 for them. And they also drafted a 3rd rounder last year in Sabin Caballos in day 3 too. So they actually had a really good day 3. So we'll see what happens. Would love to know what everybody else thinks. So drop it in the comments below if you're watching us on YouTube again, and also rank how the Angels did today. So guys, as always, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. You can go ahead and follow us on all our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, you can follow us on Threads at some point. We'll be there. You can follow myself on Twitter at Jared_Tims, Nate at NateGreen34. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.